She did. I wheeled round and shook off the hand she had placed on my sleeve with a timid and imbecile smile. "Get into the car," I said. She obeyed, and I went on pacing up and down, struggling with nameless thoughts, trying to plan some way of tackling her duplicity. Presently she left the car and was at my side again. My sense of hearing gradually got tuned in to station low again, and I became aware she was telling me that she had met a former girlfriend. "Yes, whom?" "A Beardsley girl." "Good. I know every name of your group. Alice Adams?" This girl was not in my group." "Good. I have a complete student list with me. Her name, please." "She was not in my school. She was just a town girl in Beardsley." "Good. I have the Beardsley directory with me, too. We'll look up all the Browns." "I only know her first name." "Mary or Jane?" "No, Dolly, like me." "So that's the dead end. The mirror you break your nose against." "Good. Let us try another angle. You have been absent 28 minutes. What did the two Dollys do?" "We went to a drugstore." "And you had there?" "Oh, just a couple of Cokes." "Careful, Dolly. We can check that, you know." "Well, at least she had. I had a glass of water." "Good. Was it that place there?" "Sure." "Good. Come on. We'll grill the soda jerk." "Wait a sec. Come to think of it, it might have been further down, just around the corner." "Come on all the same." "Go in, please." "Well, let's see." Opening a chained telephone book. "Dignified funeral service." No, not yet. Here we are. "Druggists, retail." "Hill Drugstore, Larkin's Pharmacy, and 2 more. That's all Waste seems to have in the way of soda fountains, at least in the business section. Well, we will check them all." "Go to hell," she said. "Low, rudeness will get you nowhere." "Okay," she said, "but you're not going to trap me." "Okay, so we didn't have a pop. We just talked and looked at dresses and show windows." "Which? That window there, for example?" "Yeah, that one there, for example." "Oh, Low. Let's look closer at it." It was indeed a pretty sight. A dapper young fellow was vacuum cleaning a carpet of sorts, upon which stood 2 figures that looked if some blast had just worked havoc with them. One figure was stark naked, wigless and armless. Its comparatively small stature and smirking pose suggested that when clothed it had represented, and would represent when clothed again, a girl-child of Lolita's size. But in its present state it was sexless. Next to it stood a much taller veiled bride, quite perfect and intacta, except for the lack of one arm. On the floor, at the feet of these damsels, where the man crawled about laboriously with his cleaner, there lay a cluster of 3 slender arms and a blonde wig. 2 of the arms happened to be twisted and seemed to suggest a clasping gesture of horror and supplication. "Look, Low," I said quietly. "Look well. Is not that a rather good symbol of something or other?" "However," I went on as we got back into the car, "I have taken certain precautions. Here," delicately opening the glove compartment, "on this pad, I have our boyfriend's car number." As the ass I was, I had not memorized it. What remained of it in my mind were the initial letter and the closing figure, as if the whole amphitheatre of 6 signs receded concavely behind a tinted glass too opaque to allow the central series to be deciphered, but just translucent enough to make out its extreme edges. A capital P and a 6. I have to go into those details, which in themselves can interest only a professional psychologue, because otherwise the reader, if I could visualize him as a blonde-bearded scholar with rosy lips, sucking la pomme de la canne as he quaffs my manuscript, might not understand the quality of the shock I experienced upon noticing that the P had acquired the bustle of a B, and that the 6 had been deleted altogether. The rest, with erasures revealing the hurried shuttle smear of a pencil's rubber end, and with parts of numbers obliterated or reconstructed in a child's hand, presented a tangle of barbed wire to any logical interpretation. All I knew was the state, one adjacent to the state Beardsley was in. I said nothing. I put the pad back, closed the compartment, and drove out of Wace. Low had grabbed some comics from the back seat, and mobile white-bloused, one brown elbow out of the window, was deep in the current adventure of some clout or clown. 3 or 4 miles out of Wace, I turned into the shadow of a picnic ground where the morning had dumped its litter of light on an empty table. Lowe looked up with a semi-smile of surprise, and without a word I delivered a tremendous backhand cut that caught her smack in her hot, hard little cheekbone. And then the remorse, the poignant sweetness of sobbing atonement, grovelling love, the hopelessness of sensual reconciliation. In the velvet night at Marana Motel, Marana, I kissed the yellowish soles of her long-toed feet. I immolated myself. But it was all of no avail. Both doomed were we. And soon I was to enter a new cycle of persecution. In a street of Wace, on its outskirts, I'm quite sure it was not a delusion. In a street of Wace, I had glimpsed the Aztec red convertible, or its identical twin. Instead of trap, it contained 4 or 5 loud young people of several sexes, but I said nothing. After Wace, a totally new situation arose. For a day or two, I enjoyed the mental emphasis with which I told myself that we were not and never had been followed. And then I became sickeningly conscious that Trap had changed his tactics and was still with us, in this or that rented car. A veritable Proteus of the highway, with bewildering ease he switched from one vehicle to another. This technique implied the existence of garages specializing in stage automobile operations, but I never could discover the premises he used. He seemed to patronize at first the Chevrolet genus, beginning with a Campus Cream convertible, then going on to a small Horizon Blue sedan, and thenceforth fading into surf grey and driftwood grey. Then he turned to other makes and passed through a pale dull rainbow of paint shades. And one day I found myself attempting to cope with the subtle distinction between our own dream blue Melmoth and the crest blue Oldsmobile he had rented. Greys, however, remained his favourite cryptochromism, and in agonizing nightmares I tried in vain to sort out properly such ghosts as Chrysler's Shell Grey, Chevrolet's Thistle Grey, Dodge's French Grey.